Kansas once again does not disappoint. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. The Mellow Man, championship contenders in trouble, and a preview of what to expect at Talladega. Yo, what's up everyone? My name is Jett. Welcome back to an episode of MDK Racing Victory Stop, recapping the opening round in the round of 12 of the NASCAR playoffs. We have a lot to talk about. It was one wild ride here in Kansas. It started off crazy on lap 1. Off of turn number 2, we knew restarts are going to get insane at this racetrack, and it did just that here today. 4 wide off of turn number 1. Ty Dillon, Harrison Burton, Josh Berry, and Chase Elliott, who had to start at the rear due to an engine change, made contact. All but Elliott spins. Jimmie Johnson. Man, that 84 car cannot catch a break. Yes, when you start at the back, you're more likely to get into trouble. But man, I swear, every single time Jimmy's in the field, something happens in front of him on lap 1 or very early on in the race that takes him out of contention. And this was another example of that. And then deja vu occurs on lap 20, just like what happened in the opening round in the round of 16 at Atlanta. Kyle Larson very early on trouble. Cuts a right front tire, hits the wall up in turns 1 and 2, and that effectively killed his day because the entire time, that entire race, that team was trying to fix the diffuser on the rear of the car because it was damaged when Larson hit the wall. Obviously, the car is more on the ground, and the diffuser was dragging on the racing surface, damaging it with this car being aerosensitive, especially on the underbody of the race car. That diffuser is a very critical part for aerodynamics, and the team spent the entire day trying to fix that. William Byron had a real fast car today right at the very beginning. Started up, I believe, in the 6th position, but was able to drive his way up towards the front pretty quickly. But it was Christopher Bell that was still leading for majority of the stage up until just a few laps ago, where Byron was right on Bell's bumper. Bell got loose in 1 and 2, hits the wall, giving Byron the lead, and he will go on to win stage number 1 while Christopher Bell fell back to 5th place. In stage 2, things got a bit chaotic. Now, Christopher Bell was able to get back up towards the front once the stage began and was continuing to lead. We saw other contenders like Ryan Blaney, who had a really good car on lap 144. He takes the lead, and then we just had a slew of cautions take place. All happen on restarts. Justin Haley chops down in front of John Hunter Nemechek. Haley had a run, goes underneath to gain some positions, but Hunter was there and basically takes himself out. There was some communication issues with the spotter because Haley was starting his first race with Spire since the switch between him and Corey LaJoie. Then the next restart, Austin Cindric on the back straightaway. He comes up, hits Kyle Busch, sending him spinning into the inside wall. And then on the next restart, deja vu to what happened stage number 1, because that entire stage 2, Christopher Bell was the class of the field, just like in the first stage. And once again, on a restart, Bell hits the wall and loses the lead. Alex Bowman takes the lead entering turn 3, Bell running second, but then Bell hits the wall a lot more hard than the last time he hit the wall back in stage number 1 and falls outside the top 10. Doesn't even get any stage points while Alex Bowman goes on to win stage 2. Stage 3 was very interesting. We saw a lot of different strategies take place throughout that final stage, but one thing remains certain was that Ross Chastain was going to be a threat to win that race from stage 3 onwards, but he did have some competition. William Byron, who pitted later, who pitted at the beginning of stage 3, Chastain pitted much earlier on. He was able to drive his way up towards the front into the top 5. But the driver that Chastain had to worry about was the 8 car of Kyle Busch. Busch and Chastain had a great battle for the lead. At one point in time, Busch took the lead from the 1 car Chastain, but then Chastain was able to fight right back, got back to his inside, and Chastain retook the lead. Those two went at it for a few laps. It was very entertaining to watch. But ultimately, Busch was able to hold on to the lead up until their final round of green flag pit stops. After that, it was again Busch and Chastain. And it seemed to be that those two drivers were going to determine who would win that race. With 43 laps to go, Busch hits the wall, gives the lead to Chastain, but then Busch takes the lead right back. Like I said, the 1 and the 8 were going at it. And then Kyle Busch encountered traffic. Up in turns 1 and 2, Chase Briscoe did not have a good day, was on threat, I should say, of going 1 lap down. Kyle Busch goes to his outside. Briscoe just slightly blocks him, gets Busch loose. Busch hits the wall, tries to correct it, and spins on the back straightaway. He was able to stay in the top 10, but would end up bringing out the caution. Now, this was pretty controversial because on one side, I get it. Briscoe, he's trying to stay on the lead lap in case a caution comes out. I get that. But when you look at how the 8 raced the 14 back at Darlington, where Busch could have easily just drove in the corner and put Briscoe on the wall. He didn't. He raced him very fair, very cleanly. It's not like Busch was a playoff driver. If Busch was a playoff driver, then I get it. Briscoe doing everything he can to hold Kyle Busch back. But if Busch were to put him a lap down, it would have really changed nothing in terms of points. Briscoe was still so far back. Nothing would have happened. At least I don't think anything would have happened. But Briscoe was very aggressive. He didn't hit Busch, but let's be honest, he gave him zero room, or should say maybe gave him a lane, but he did put Busch in a very compromised position where it was a high likelihood that Busch was either going to hit the wall or get loose or have some type of issue. Then actually Martin Truex Jr. would become the race leader in a sense after he won the race off of pit road, started alongside Brad Keselowski on the next restart. Keselowski lost a ton of positions right after Truex held the lead until Carson Hocevar spun, bringing out another caution. Then Ross Chastain took over the race lead from the 19 of Truex, and he set sail, but he was not out of the woods because he had a hard-charging William Byron on his tail. Byron, it looked as though he was faster, but at the same time, that 24 in the one car seemed to be pretty even on speeds. Once Byron got around to 3 to 4 tenths of a second behind the one of Chastain. Byron tried, but he couldn't do it. Chastain and that clean air was just too strong, and Chastain was able to hold on to win at Kansas, leading, I believe, 52 laps, scoring his first win since the championship finale at Phoenix last year, his 5th career Cup Series win overall, and Trackhouse Racing giving them him their 2nd win of 2024, and we end up getting to see the Watermelon Smash once again. This race had, I believe, 30 lead changes, which is actually the 2nd most lead changes ever in the history of Kansas Speedway in terms of NASCAR Cup Series races, only losing it to the 2023 fall race that was won by Denny Hamlin. So this race had it all in terms of great racing, great strategy, and a really awesome finish. It was really cool to see Ross Chastain. You could hear him on the radio. You heard him in his interview. He was so happy. That emotion from finally winning was awesome to see. Anyways, let's take a look at the race results here. So, like I said, Ross Chastain is your winner. 2nd place is William Byron. 3rd is Martin Truex Jr. 4th is Ryan Blaney, and Ty Gibbs rounds out the top 5. Alex Bowman, my pick to win, ultimately didn't have the car to win, ends up in 6th. Bell, after leading the most laps, self-inflicted wounds, ends up coming in 7th. Denny Hamlin, his teammate, after he had to start at the rear, I should say he was up front, then fell to the back. After multiple slow pit stops, was still able to drive his way up to the top 10. And Chase Elliott, who started dead last, still was able to rebound to 9th place. And how about Zane Smith? Another top 10 finish. Tell you what, Spire Motorsports as a whole was running a lot better today. Even Justin Haley, who did spin, like I mentioned earlier in the race, was showing some really good speed. Same thing with Carson Hocevar, also showed some real good speed up until his spin there. 12th, or I should say 11th is Chris Buescher. 12th, Austin Dillon. Daniel Suarez rebounds for 13th because he was a lap down at one point. Good rebound for that 99 team. Joe Logano and Corey LaJoie in his first race with Rick Ware Racing gets a top 15 finish. Nice run for him. Ryan Preece, Bubba Wallace, a slow, unusual day for the Toyota Cam, and specifically for 2311 Racing. You see Bubba Wallace in 17th. Tyler Reddick, he's not even on this page. He's back in 25th spot. Unusual day for those two drivers because 2311 is usually really good at a track like Kansas, but Noah Gragson, Kyle Busch, after he had the win in his sights, has to settle for 19th place, and Daniel Hemrick in the top 20. Hemrick's replacement, Ty Dillon, right behind him in 21st, Keselowski 22nd, Harrison Burton and Chase Briscoe 23rd and 24th. You see Tyler Reddick there. Kyle Larson was not able to recover from that tire failure. Lap 20 comes home in 26th. Other notables, like you see Carson Hocevar 32nd, Haley 33rd, Austin Cindric 34th, and then Jimmy Johnson 36th, JJ Yeley 37th, and Josh Berry in 38th. Now, with Josh Berry was interesting because Berry didn't have any real damage, just had flat tires, and Ronnie Childers, though, was irate. He even tweeted on how something that he's never experienced while being a crew chief in NASCAR or competing in NASCAR in a situation like this, where the team, or at least the car, was ready. It was ready. It just needed inflated tires. It just needed new tires. But because Barry was involved in a wreck, once his car was up on the hook, his day was done, regardless if he just needed tires or not, which is very stupid. And that's something that NASCAR really needs to take a look at in the offseason, is this damaged vehicle policy, is because, yeah, it sounds great on paper, but I don't think they fully understand what can happen in NASCAR racing, that makes me think that this damaged vehicle policy is very flawed, or at the very least one-dimensional, and there needs to be major revisions to this rule for 2025. Anyways, take a look at the point standings, the playoff grid following the first race of the round of 12. So William Byron at the moment, he is positioned at number 1, plus 38 above the cut line, but doesn't have that one race gap in order to be really safe heading into next weekend at Talladega. I should say 38, he is actually plus 34. But Ryan Blaney and Christopher Bell tied at plus 28, Larson at plus 18, Denny Hamlin at plus 11, and Alex Bowman at plus 8. The final 2 spots going to Chase Elliott and Joe Logano, both sitting at plus 4. And how about this? For the regular season champion, Tyler Reddick is now looking at uncharted territory below the cut line, minus 4. Daniel Hemrick minus 14, Briscoe minus 25, and Austin Cindric sitting at minus 29. So my thoughts on this race. This race was an 8 out of 10. 8, 9 out of 10. I felt like in my eyes, this race, while not as, from the eye perspective, as amazing as Kansas was in the spring, this was still a really good race. Like I said, it had the second most lead changes ever at Kansas Speedway, but this race had a lot of really good racing and really good strategy on top of that. So you got that mixture of good racing from the eye test and also good strategy if you're into the technical side of NASCAR. You got the best of both worlds in my eyes. Now, yes, dirty air, that's still a thing. You know, we have to talk about that with the 24 and the 1 car, because I felt like the 24 was faster and just could not get there. And not to say that Chastain was bad. I felt like Chastain had a good enough car to maybe keep back Byron, but Byron I felt like could have gone closer. But again, dirty air. It's like beating a dead horse at this point. But overall, I thought it was a very, very good race. A lot of playoff drivers having issues. I think maybe only 1 or 2 didn't have any problems. I'm trying to think, because Logano had issues, got sent to the back over retightening a lug nut. I mentioned Ryan Blaney getting back in the top 10 after he had he came back onto pit road to retighten a lug nut. There almost, I think, 1 or 2 playoff drivers all had some type of problem, some worse than others. But we have to talk about Talladega next weekend, and you got to look at a guy like Tyler Reddick. I mentioned 2311 Racing. Shocking to see how poor they ran. I mean, I expected those 2 drivers to perform a lot better. They just did not have the setup at a track that you would think to be dominated by the Toyotas. Yes, Christopher Bell led the most laps, but it was really the Chevrolets that was the most consistent. Bell was fast, but kept taking himself out of contention. Hamlin had issues. Ty Gibbs, though, had a really good car, was consistently in the top 5, top 10 all race long. But it was really the Chevy drivers that made the most noise, like William Byron, who was able to charge his way up towards the front. Ross Chastain started 11th, was able to charge his way up towards the front, and Kyle Busch late in the race. The Chevys made the most noise at a track that you would expect to be dominated more or less by the Toyota camp. So that was very interesting to see, but man, Talladega is going to be wild because no one is safe. Not even William Byron. Plus 34, that is nothing. That is nothing. That can go away like that. Very excited to see what happens next Sunday. But those are my thoughts on what happened at Kansas. What did you think of the race? Let me know in the comment section down below. As always, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more content. Until next time, my name is Jett from MDK. Thanks for watching.